Poe is sensational as well. He's amazing. He's America's best vocal coach. Yeah, I'm talking about no other person but David Paul Norman. I met him a few days ago and we've been having a lot of conversations. And yes, he thinks like me, and we've been sharing a lot of ideas. And I said, God, I need to have this person on my podcast. So, speaking with you, joining us all the way from the United States, ladies and gentlemen, meet Coach. He's a vocal coach, of course. Vocal coach, David Paul Norman. David Paul Norman, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, worship. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, a quick biography on David Paul. For those of you who do not know him, David Paul grew up near Cleveland, Ohio. There he studied piano as a kid and classical voice as an adult. He moved to New York City where he did his year of postgraduate studies in classical voice at Manhattan School of Music. He worked as a professional singer and a composer in New York City before moving to Phoenix, Arizona. There he began to teach acting students on singing and speech techniques. Now he splits his time between Phoenix and Los Angeles. He has always had an interest in the brain, psychology, learning processes, and spirituality, and has incorporated those disciplines into his voice teaching to help his clients achieve their goals more quickly. Over the years of teaching, he has continued to study voice and vocal God, pedagogy. It sounds so weird. Don't worry, I'll explain that in class. Pedagogy. He also produces EDM music with the intent of having a positive impact on his listeners and the world. He wants people, whether they be singers taking lessons with him or listeners to his EDM music, to discover their own God given power to create the lives and the world they desire. So that is most part anyway. I don't want stressing you guys up. So, David Paul, tell us about you. I know I just read your biography, but tell us about you. What drives you? What is your drive? What do you hope to see in students that you teach?
Well, I want my students to not only become better singers or public speakers, depending on what they're working with me, and sometimes we work on both at the same time.
Wow. Okay. So, you've taught singing over the years now, and one of the basic things we want to discuss tonight is how the mind is connected to our singing. Yes, I've always emphasized this to my students, but I think hearing it from another person is going to enlighten them some more. So, go on, tell us. Over the years, you've come to discover this yourself. Tell us, what is the link between the mind and singing? What is the connection?
Well, just like with everything, we have a connection from our minds to the physical reality. We can get more esoteric, and that material reality is the spiritual reality. Is very slowed down. If you want to get into that, but if without getting that in depth, everything that we do starts first with a thought or something in our imagination. If you simply want to pick up a pen or pick up your phone, it first happens in your mind. You think of the action of picking up the pen or picking up the phone, and then you do it. And we've done it so many times that the process happens so quickly we don't even notice it anymore. But there's still a process behind it. And we use our imagination for everything from moving our bodies to something more complicated like creating a chair or creating an automobile or building a house. It all starts first in the imagination, in the mind. So singing is a physical process. We have all the muscles connected to the voice, all the muscles in the larger muscles in our body that are connected to our vocal production. So that right there, that starts in the mind. And then on top of that, singing is an expression of your thoughts and emotions. So the thoughts in your head, the subtext of the lyrics, for example, are going to come through one way or another. So that starts in the mind as well. So if you have a nice solid connection between the mind and the body, as well as the thoughts that are connected with the lyrics and whatever musical idea you're expressing, that's going to give you a great performance. So that's what I would say is that's the connection between the mind and singing. They're really one.
That's really amazing. That's really enlightening. I've said this over and over again. So does that mean if your mind, because I've heard my one of my vocal mentors said she always, this is her like her tag phrase, said as long as the mind can think it, then the voice can sing it. Does that mean there is no these barriers that we always have, these walls that we always have in our mind, there is no limit as far as you can imagine it, you can think it. It just means it's, but there's no impossibility. As long as you can imagine it, you can actually see it. Does that, is that what it means? Our mind is like, it's the limit we can go with our singing abilities, the limit we can go with our vocal growth is tied to our mind.
Yeah, exactly. Our limitations are also created by us, or not. I wouldn't say created because all creation is already finished, but the limitations we adapt are within us, are from our mind. If taking it to another example, salamanders and newts can lose a limb and they can grow their limb back.
Wow.
And people, right now, I would say most people, if they were to lose a limb, they would, not have that limb. Then maybe they could get a prosthetic limb or something along those lines. But technologically speaking, we're now at a point that, maybe we could find a way to medically induce a limb regrowth. So that's a possibility. Something that we often think of as not being possible, actually it is possible. There is a way. And maybe there are people out there, I'm sure there are people out there that could probably heal themselves with their mind alone and not have to have some sort of medical intervention.
Yeah, there's medical therapy that has to do with that. Yeah, I think I read that somewhere.
So yeah, anything is possible. I really literally I believe that everything is possible. Just our sheer existence shows that anything is possible. You look at this infinite world around us and all the things that are in it, whether they come from nature or man-made, that just shows that I don't know what more proof you need that anything is possible. So with that in mind, I think it's possible for us to tune ourselves into all of those infinite possibilities.
Wow, that's amazing. See, growing up, like when I went through puberty, because I had this, you know how it always works. When you're little, you have this your sopranic, is that even a word? Sopranic voice. And
Yeah.
I was like, I really loved my voice. And then puberty happened, and brah, my voice cracked, and it was really devastating for me. Like, I really hated the way I sounded, and I just knew that no, this cannot be permanent. Like, there has to be a way to access my higher notes. Like, I kept on thinking, I thought about day and night. Like, thinking about it drove me to going into research. How can I just get my high notes back? I love my high notes. I love my pitched voice. How do I get there? And just the thought of knowing. And when I hear somebody hit high notes, I'm like, if this person can do it, then why can't it? Just simply means it's possible. If you can do it, then it's possible. It drove me into researching and all that. I'm telling all this story to bring us to one person. I just knew, like, I didn't put a mental block in front of me, like, I cannot do this, it's not possible. I kept on telling myself that it is possible, this is not me, I cannot sing, I can't remain this way, I can't sing. I know I'm not a baritone, I'm not a bass. I kept on repeating those words twice. I kept on saying, no, I'm not. If I'm not a baritone, if I was to join any choir, they put me in the tenor. I'm like, no, I can't. I want to sing in tenor. I want to be in the alto. They're like, no, your vocal range. I'm like, no, there's something. You understand what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
just said it, and I kept on pushing and just trying to get me. How do I get this stuff? And look at where I am today. Like, I go back. I have my high notes back. So what I'm trying to say is this. I keep telling people, do not say I can't. And I keep telling people also, there are no absolutes in music. There is no absolutely not. Or there's no. There's always a way around it. It's just all those absolutes and those are like they are walls we put in front of us that restrict our progress or that restricts our moving forward. So all this story to say there is a connection with the words we proclaim to ourselves, the words we tell ourselves, and its impact on our ability. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Both those words that we think inside our head and the ones we speak out loud have a direct impact on our experience. That everything from the way we interact with other people. If you assume that somebody is difficult, I guarantee they're going to be difficult. Or we've all, well, I'm guessing we've all had the experience where there's somebody that nobody likes, but you get along with this person, or
I
there's
know.
somebody else that everybody likes, but you just can't stand. It's the same person, but your perception of them has changed,
Different.
and you see that aspect of them that you might not want to encounter, and then you also filter everything through that label you've given that person that label
Yes.
of being difficult, so you see everything through that filter.
So
So I think I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit here. Oh yeah, yeah. So our words do have an impact on our experience, whether it's our own experience, like you were talking about singing. You ask yourself things like, well, how can I do that?
yeah.
What's the answer to this? As opposed to saying, oh, I can't sing notes that high anymore. Oh well, one opens possibilities, the other shuts possibilities down.
Yeah. So David Paul, I would like for you to give us examples. You've had a lot of students. Give us examples of words people say that dampens or that totally blocks them, that puts a wall in front of them and restricts their progress. You hear people say a lot of stuff like, I can never do that, or I can't do that, or it's hard, or all those kind of words. Give us examples and tell us ways we could counter those words. If a student should say this, for people that teach music anyway, and for students that are listening, to tell them, okay, don't say this instead. Never say this instead. Those kind of examples. And for teachers too, that students come to them with all this kind of negative declarations. Yeah, I think that's it. Declarations about their singing, about their voice. So,
Mhm.
what? Just give us a few examples you've heard over the years as better things to say instead of those negative declarations.
Well, you brought one up already, and we've talked about as I can't. That's probably the number one thing I've heard over the years, and I was guilty of it myself. Uh, but every time you think up those two words, I can't, you just got to replace it with I can. Or sometimes, you might be so used to having that I can't attitude that you have to kind of coax your way into a new way of thinking. So I can't, okay, I can't right now, but maybe later. Or I can't right now, how can I do it? So
Yeah.
that's you can start there. I can't is a major one. And then you also just brought up I'll never. Well, okay, you'll never. So what are you going to do instead? You got to say I'll never, or replace that with I can, or I will, or I'm going to. You got to try out different ones for yourself
Yeah.
to
Like
find out which one your mind is most receptive to.
pizza.
Or maybe change from I'll never to it seems like I'll never, but I know I will. Those are little things you can do
Wow.
there, to work your way into changing your thought patterns. It's hard to change that to it's easy. I have a story of my own story with when I started doing music production, and I was learning how to use Ableton, and I thought, man, this is hard. I don't know what any of this means. I don't understand this program. I know how to sing, I know how to play piano, but this is outside of my realm. And then I was like, "Whoa, wait, hold on, take your own advice, Paul." So I started saying, I can, this is easy, and thinking to myself, imagining myself using that program, using that app, and thinking, oh, this is easy. I don't know why this was hard. This is too easy. I can't believe how easy this is. I did, I really didn't do anything. I didn't really put in any extra study time or any practice time, but the next time I sat down and started to use that program, man, it was easy. And I couldn't believe how quickly I mixed and mastered the song. It came out of me like instantly. So yeah, switch, it's easy. And again, right away, if your brain says, no, it's hard, you say, okay, yeah, it's okay, so fine. It's hard right now, but I know that it could be easy. And I'm going to find out how to make it easy. So those are probably the most common ones. And another thing along those lines is we have to be careful to not put other singers or other musicians on a pedestal and worship them. Like someone might say, oh, Ariana Grande, she's so good, I could never sing like that. Just stop saying stuff like that. You say, Ariana Grande, I really like her singing, she's amazing, I'm gonna be that good. And just open that pot. And how can I get to that level? That's the thing you gotta always be asking. How can I get there?
The hows are better than the no's and the I can'ts.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said the hows, the how can I is always better than the I can't and the no I can't or no I'll never, all those negative declarations.
Totally. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you don't even have to think about the how anymore. It's kind of like the how is just an opening. Now I just start telling myself, oh, I can play that, I can sing that, and I imagine myself doing it, and then it just happens, and I don't really have to put the effort into it that I used to.
You said something about imagining yourself doing it. I've thought something like that before. I call it mental rehearsals, where you picture yourself. One of the things that helped me while I was growing up, it's not like I'm done growing up. One of the things that actually helped out was I always pictured, there's this picture I have in my mind. I never pictured myself singing like every other guy. I never pictured myself singing like every other macho around. No. I always pictured myself singing high notes, singing on a higher register. I always pictured that. So I think having mental pictures of things to actually opens up a door to possibility. For example, you hear a song and the song seems hard, but you immediately picture yourself singing that same song. I hear some songs and I just imagine my voice on that song. Like, the song may be very hard, may seem hard, not very hard, may seem hard, but I just picture myself singing that song and I'm like, I can do it. And I launch into practice and I notice, I can actually do it. But those songs I say, no, I could never, or truly, there's this particular song. I've taught people to sing this song, but myself have not been able to sing because of that simple. I don't think I would ever be able. I've taught people, like I actually taught people. I coach them on, okay, don't sing this part this way, sing it that way. Okay, me and you sing it because of those mental blocks. So let's talk about this mental picturing now, bringing it into rehearsals and all that. What's your take on mental rehearsals?
I personally think mental rehearsal is just as important, if not more important, than physical or I don't want to say, yeah, physical rehearsal. You think about, in your mind you have infinite time. So as you're, but in you know our physical reality, we don't have that.
The
Well,
time
we
back.
do. We can get into that on that's another discussion. But we tend to we tend to think in terms of time limitations. Let's say, I have a half hour to rehearse, or hour, or whatever it happens to be. Uh, but in your mind, you have an infinite time, so you can rehearse. You can theoretically sing a song 500,000 times in a half hour, because once you take off that concept of time limitation in your mind, that imaginal rehearsal is infinite. So
Yeah.
you can accomplish quite a bit there. And then I've found, and other people have found, like, a lot of teachers who have really heavily influenced me are Neville Goddard, um, Neil Donald Walsh, some of those people, talking about how what we experience in our mind will inevitably happen in physical reality. So if you are rehearsing something in your mind in a relaxed state, it will pop up in physical reality. And I even say to my clients, don't spend so much time thinking about your actual rehearsals. So don't think about that half hour you have to rehearse the song. Think about, or imagine, after the performance. And I just had a client have great success with this. He had a performance coming up, and I said, all right, let's do a visualization. I said, close your eyes. Now it's after the performance, and people are coming up to you and telling you how great your performance was, how much they enjoyed your singing, how much they enjoyed your playing, so on and so forth. And he had that gig, and he came back to me, the following week for his session, and he said, man, it went exactly like we had visualized. And he was mentally living from after the performance, so that you didn't have to worry about all the stuff leading up to the performance. And that's exactly what happened. The way that he rehearsed in his mind is exactly what happened in physical reality. And this is that I learned from a person who he works with athletes a lot. His name is Mr. 2020. And he teaches them all about that. And it's not like if it was golfing, it's not hitting that hole in one, it's the after the hole in one, it's the applause, it's the getting the trophy or something like that, as opposed to all the stuff you have to think about to make the hole in one. So if you think of after the performance, the hugs, the congratulations, maybe you've got an award, so you imagine that award for singing on your mantle or wherever you would happen to have it, or opening the letter saying congratulations on, whatever it happens to be. So congratulations on your recent performance. We'd like you to come and sing at such and such event. So you think of those things that happen afterward that imply you've already achieved what you want to achieve.
Wow, this is so real. Like, I am actually picturing, while you're saying it, I'm actually picturing those thoughts in my mind already. And this could apply to those people that have serious stage fright issues. Like, instead of imagining yourself failing in that presentation or rendition, you could imagine people telling you, you really did good in that song. After, you could just picture it. Picture after, don't even picture the me, picture after it. Picture how people come to hold you. I'm like, wow, I was blessed. Wow, you really did good. This part of the song, you killed it. You are so good. All those, it puts you on a better place. It puts you in a better place, balance. It puts you in a better place. That's so true. Like, this is so realistic. I hope somebody is really listening to this now, not just hearing it, listening to this. It's so real. Okay. One final thing before we end this podcast is, let's address those that have stage fright. Now, there's something I love to call I call it musical trauma. The fear of there's a phobia like that, the fear of failure. I think that's one of the crises people with stage fright usually have. They failed before, probably during the rehearsals. Their music director has said, "Why do you keep going off?" And that's another word for musical directors. Do not say negative words to your singers. You put them in a bad spot. You put this "I will fail" thing in their mind. So probably due to the kind of negative words their musical director or their coach or whoever they have been talking to has told them, you sing off key too much, you go off beat too much, you like that and like that. So they have this, or they have this memory of a past failure they had. So it just keeps playing in their mind, and even if no matter how good it reverse, it just turns off bad. It just turns off bad because they put this memory in their mind, they put it on replay. So it just keeps replaying, and even before going for the next singing, whatever, they are like, "Oh, I messed up before. Ah, what's the possibility I'm not gonna mess up again?" So what would you tell those kind of people suffering from musical trauma or singing trauma, or in other words, stage fright?
Well, a few things here, because I've had to overcome stage fright myself. I used to have debilitating stage fright when it came to piano. I gave basically what happened was I gave a bad performance when I was in high school, and in high school you're so impressionable, and that impacted my thoughts on how I played in front of. I could play fine for myself or for family who people who I was really familiar with, but put me in front of a crowd and forget about it. So I had to overcome this myself, and I used a lot of the stuff that we were talking about earlier, and I'm going to make a few recommendations because this is what worked for me. uh, let's see, first I'll start with the recommendations. So first, reimagine the relationship you have with that music director. So if they're very difficult and instead of being helpful, they say mean, nasty things and scare you so you don't, or try to scare you into not making the mistake. Reimagine your relationship with them. So think of them as the music director you want, as opposed to the one that you're stuck with right now. So imagine them being very complimentary, imagine them being very helpful, imagine them giving you positive, helpful feedback, things like that, and imagine them being really nice. Think of them as you want them to be. The second thing I would recommend, if you had a bad experience like I did, I would say two things. Reimagine that past event. So instead of the stage fright that kicked in and you froze and you couldn't play the keys anymore, or your voice cracked, or whatever it happens to be, imagine that it went flawlessly, or it was a wonderful performance, and imagine those hugs and congratulations that we were just talking about, but for that particular event. And maybe imagine them asking you to come back and do another performance, or something that would imply that it was excuse me, you have to edit that out. Something that implies it was a successful performance and that you're doing what you want to be doing. And I would suggest this too. It's called, a lot of people call it scripting. I like to call it future journaling or ideal journaling. And that rewrite a journal entry of that past event, but in the way that you would have preferred it to go. So, for example, if I was writing the journal entry of that performance, I would say, instead of writing about stage fright and everything, I would say, I remember that performance in my senior year in high school and how great it was, and how that one event turned me into the great pianist that I am today. And I will never forget how happy everybody was with my performance and how elated I felt, and how I was asked then to perform at the graduation ceremony, something like that, that would imply that it went the way that you wanted it to go. So do that as a journal entry. And and see what happens. And until that journal entry, keep reading it until it starts to feel like that's the way that it actually happened. And you can always tell yourself, you know what? Actually, I did not have stage fright, because you need to acknowledge that it happened, but you also need to move on. You know what? I actually didn't have stage fright. That was a great performance. I don't know where I got that idea from that I had stage fright. That's I don't know, but that's not what happened. What actually happened was blah 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 blah, and that's what I did, and that worked for me. So I recommend anybody try that.
That's really amazing. What,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. One last thing too. If you feel the anxiety kicking in, you're up there and you're starting to sweat all those normal anxiety reactions, don't fight the anxiety. Don't fight the fear. They're just emotions. You just have to sit with them until they pass. And I even have suggested that people intensify the anxiety. The audience is going to sit and wait until you're ready to perform. So if you get out there and you're starting to feel scared, let it pass, absorb it. And think of it as, instead of anxiety and fear, think of it as excitement, because physiologically the reactions are exactly the same from excitement and fear. So you might as well label it excitement and use it in your performance.
wow, that's amazing. Like I've never thought of it this way, but I'm really sure this works, because especially the last thing you said, where you said if you are feeling the anxiety and the fear and everything coming, just allow it. It has happened to me times and times again. Like I'm even like, if I'm having a major singing event or a rendition or a performance, like if I do not feel that initial anxiety and fear, I feel strange. I'm like, why am I not at least a little bit? But the moment I get up there, I just allow everything to go down,
Mm-hmm.
and I just get down. And I notice the rendition ends up being very, it ends up absolutely amazing. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
it works, guys. It works. It works. Try it out, because a lot of people, this is their problem. They have, and do you know, there are some note, your high notes, for singers especially, your high notes just disappear if you allow anxiety to rule your singing, or if you allow the
Mm-hmm.
stage kicking and ruin everything. Your high notes just disappear. If you could previously breathe from your chest voice all the way up to your um, head voice without any breaks or crack whatsoever, you would instantly begin to crack and have breaks because of stage fright. So people even begin to feel dehydrated. Like some people panic. Like when people tell me how they become frightened of this, I'm like, how it even looks like a medical condition. But it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to just being anxious and being afraid, or having memories from a past event and all that. So I really think singers should put this in practice. Another thing I do to combat this is to immediately begin to affirm to myself, okay, I don't know if other singers have always had terrible singing experiences, but if you are such a person that, apart from that negative experience you had another positive experience. Another thing you could do is remember those positive experiences and bask there. Avoid the negative ones. Remember how people were blessed and people were so thrilled and happy at what you did the last time. Forget about the one you think you flopped. Sometimes we think we flopped, but we did not really flop. It's just our inner critic. Let's not even go there. That's
Mm-hmm.
another talk another day. That's another talk for another day. So, like you said, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Well, guys, you heard that. Put it into practice. Okay, final words before we call this podcast a day. Give advice to aspiring singers. What should be their mindset? What should fuel their passion? What do you think should be the fuel, the driving force?
Well, what, think of a broad. I would say. Let me gather my thoughts here. Couple of things. Think of a broader mission. What is the impact you want to have? Like I've made my EDM mission and my voice coaching mission to help people discover their own inner power and to have a positive impact on the world. So think of that, your broader mission, something along those lines, whatever it happens to be. We're all on our own life paths. So I'm just giving you, my particular example. Excuse me. The other thing is to focus on specific goals or specific things you want to achieve. So before people meet with me, they have to fill out a questionnaire. And I always ask, describe an event that would imply you have achieved what you want to achieve as a singer. For example, their debut performance at the Hollywood Bowl, winning a Grammy Award, finishing their first tour, getting the solo on Christmas Eve, getting the solo on Easter, whatever everybody has different goals. So, but think about that event and imagine after that event. So if it was the solo on Christmas Eve, you're thinking about after the church service, people coming up to you, giving you the hug of the congratulations, saying that was so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That made our Christmas Eve even the more lovely. Or if it's to get a Grammy Award, you imagine giving your Grammy speech. So think of tangible events that would imply think about tangible events that would imply you have achieved what you want to achieve as a singer. And just keep imagining that they already happened. And eventually they will.
Thank you so much, David Paul Norman. It's really an honor. It's a privilege. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. Like, we are so thrilled and we're so happy to have you. And so our listeners have been enlightened. Thank you so much for coming. It's been awesome. Like I'm having so much fun right now, but we really have to go. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Worship. It was an honor and pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, hello everyone. We are fortunately we are at the end of this wonderful gist with David Norman Paul, American's best vocalist. Yeah, I'm gonna drop his handles in the podcast description. You can go look him out, follow him on IG, follow him on TikTok, subscribe to his YouTube channel, go to his website, go on, gather knowledge. You can even book for a class. He is so much available, and trust me, he's real good. He's a good coach. Alright guys, this will be all for today. We're gonna have another podcast sooner or later with David Norman because we still have a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, we just have to close this so that we don't spend like 4 hours because we're gonna go on talking. Thank you so much once again. You can tell our listeners bye for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, everybody.
Alright, bye everybody. See you in the next episode. Do not forget to share, review, recommend this podcast to a friend, and send in your voice messages, whatever you want to say. You can connect me. I'm going to drop my handles too in the description. All right, so bye for now. I love you guys so much, and remember, we are passionate about your voice. All right, bye from me.
Bye everybody.